OK. OK. J'espère que vous voyez l'écran pour le moment. Voilà. Nous allons parler du renforcement des capacités des organisations de YENA.
Good afternoon, everyone. We are going to discuss on how to build the capacities of YENA's organization. I just thought about this topic and found it very relevant because if our organization, I'm referring to the partner organization of YENA, such as Baho Ufashi Abatishoboye, located in Burundi where Brunel operates as the president. We have also the African Youth for Green Environment of Moses. In this vein, the PUR Peace Club is also included among the organization we are talking about. And if our organization are strong, or if they possess a strong organizational capacity, consequently, the YENA's network will also be strong. And that's why we are going to discuss about building the capacity of YENA's organization today. And today's session is just a follow-up on the introduction to organizational development session that we had 2 or 3 weeks ago, I think, with Leonard.
Avec le monsieur Leonard. Alors, voilà mon plan.
This is the outline of my presentation. I'm going to tackle on the issues hindering young non-governmental organizations, the most basic capacity of startup, or the most basic capacities of an organization that have just started, or the organization that desire to start soon. I'm going to talk about other capacities. We are going also to finish this session with a self-evaluation of our different organizations. This will be more of a discussion, and if possible, I'm going to elaborate a list of all the needs of our organization. From the start, you may understand that our discussion is all about building the capacities of YENA's organizations. Is it okay? Do you understand what I mean? If you do, I will continue with my presentation. Or if you understand what I'm talking about, we are going to continue with my presentation. Let us then start with the issues hindering young non-governmental organizations. The first major issue that I have observed is the weak or incomplete organizational structures. Most of the times, the lack of clear governance is often remarked in young non-governmental organizations. There is no board or poorly defined leadership roles. Or you may find also an issue of poor foundational document. For example, the lack of constitution, the lack of policies, the lack of audited financial statement, and other important documents. There is no evidence also of internal control. And all of these issues combined together, they show how challenging it is for your organization to have complete organizational structures. The second major issue is insufficient track record or proof of impact. Here, for example, the insufficient track record or proof, or the insufficient proof of impact. Here, for example, I'm talking about no evidence of previous successful project. For instance, there are no narrative and financial report or no audiovisual report.
Il n'y a pas de rapport aussi audiovisuel.
Most of the times, these young organizations, they have good ideas, but they lack documented results. For instance, there are no monitoring and evaluation systems. And then, all of these issues, this shows how your organization has insufficient track record or insufficient proof of impact of the previous project that you conducted. So this issue is most observed in many young organizations, but also it is crucial and relevant to tackle this issue, to discuss about it. The third issue is the financial management and accountability concerns. This is the third issue, and here we talk about the lack of proper accounting systems or standardized reporting tools, for instance, the use of software. Most of the times, there is lack of competent financial staff or team, or there is simply a lack of audited financial record. This means there are some remarkable barriers when it comes to managing the finances in your organization. And if you ever observe these issues, you should act so that you may bring solution to them. And these are the three main issues that we found in young organizations. Unfortunately, these are not mere issues, but they influence negatively in a way or another your organization. We may not find a sponsor, you may not find a sponsor just because of these issues, or the organization is simply not trustworthy in the community because of these major issues. And then in this session, I will talk about the most basic capacity of startup of the young non-governmental organization. And if we want, for example, to start an organization, there is a main question that you should ask yourselves. What are the most basic capacities that we should have? That's the main question that we should ask ourselves. The first thing is to have a very good governance and leadership structure. I'm sorry this graph I presented to you is in English, but I'm going to explain it in French for those who are here. Here is a clear difference. And a clear difference, should be between the board of directors and the staff members. This is very important. That means you should not have the president of the organization who is at the same time the director of the organization or who is in charge of the administrative staff. He should not be in charge of each and everything in the organization. This is not the best way to run an organization. You should have at least the two structures, the board of directors and the staff members. Let's now start with the board of directors. Normally, the board of directors is elected from the General Assembly. And the General Assembly is made up of all the founding members of the organization as well as the adhering members. As I said earlier, that the board of directors is elected from the General Assembly. Once you have the General Assembly, you can surely be able to elect the board of directors from it. Assigning them clear and well-defined tasks. There must be a legal representative of the organization, the vice legal representative of the organization, a treasurer, someone who is in charge of the finances, and other members depending on the need and the support that your organization has. But it is very important to have a board of directors that is elected from the General Assembly. The second thing to discuss is that an organization should have advisors. This is not common for all organizations. There are some organizations which do not have advisors, but it is always relevant to have advisors. Most of the times, these are people who have various experiences, who will be in the board of directors, but who are not eligible for electing. This means when it comes to making decisions, the advisors won't vote but will always be there to give advices. An organization also should have an executive director, and this is very relevant. This person also is part of the board of directors, and he may come from the General Assembly. And he is responsible to lead the staff members who work for the organization. Thus, he has the role, the executive director has the role to connect the board of directors and the staff members. You may ask your questions later. But I think up to now, everything is clear, the explanation is clear. Here the principle is simple and clear, that the board of directors members, they are not part of the staff members. The board of directors, they have a different role from the one of staff members. Their role is to lead the organization, but also to control what the executive director and the staff members they do. And this is very relevant. For example, you cannot be the legal representative of the organization and at the same time the executive director of the organization. That is not possible. The executive director is under control, is under the authority of the board of directors, and he is in charge of leading the organization every day. I think this is clear. It is very important to have the board of directors, which is also under the authority of the General Assembly. The accountability system is also very relevant for the well-functioning of the organization. I think up to now everything is clear. You also need to have staff members. Having staff members, it is very relevant, it is very important. These are members who work for the organization every day. If, for example, you want to start an organization today, you will not directly have the funds you wish to, unless you are rich, but it is better to have volunteers in your organization at the beginning, whom you will consider as your staff members. And the staff members, as shown on the chart, they are under the authority of the executive director. And the executive director, he is in charge of leading the organization every day. In this vein, you may have programs and departments. There will be the administration, the communication and management department. So these are the first departments that you may establish in your organization, and with time you may be adding other departments that you found relevant. So here I'm emphasizing on the difference between the board of directors and the staff members. You also need to legally register the organization. You need to register the association with relevant national authorities. But also depending on the country, you need to have a public liability and financial compliance structure. Maybe you need to provide health insurance for the staff members. Maybe you will need also to conform to whatever the government will recommend your organization to do so that you may be legally recognized and accepted. This is very crucial. For instance, you may find some organizations which have enough financial resources but still are not able to provide health insurance to their staff members or to contribute in a way or another for the staff members. This is very bad, especially the sponsors do not like this kind of attitude. It is very important to be legal with the relevant national authorities. This is the first point. Secondly, we are talking regarding the documentation and policies. Each organization should have foundational document, and the first one is the Constitution. This is the main document, always unchanged. This document includes the vision, the mission, the core vision, the core values, and other crucial information of the organization. There should be also some rules and regulation, some non-profit bylaws. These are laws that actively shows how your organization, how your daily activities within the organization look like. Thirdly, you should have also a strategic plan as well. A well-organized organization should prepare a strategic plan of what it aims to achieve in the next 3 to 5 years. So a strategic plan is very relevant for any organization to function well. Having this strategic plan, you will have in mind what you would like to achieve each year, each month, each quarter, each day too. This is very crucial, as I said it earlier. Under this section on documentation and policies, there should be some key policies. These can confuse the organization, especially if the organization is at the beginning, but it's also relevant to think on how to elaborate and have some key policies of the organization. These key policies are the financial management policy. How do you manage the resources? How do you manage the financial resources? We have also the procurement policy. How do you buy the materials? How do you buy the car? How do you buy the chairs? Or whatever you may need as materials for your organization. We have also the anti-corruption and anti-fraud policy, which is very crucial. We have also the child protection or safeguarding policies. For instance, you are working with vulnerable groups, children, women, you should have this kind of policy. The HR policy and the code of conduct. We should have also the data protection or privacy policy, the conflict of interest policy. If the organization needs to be trusted, it should take into consideration all of these key policies, which are unquestionably important. So this was the second point that we discussed about. Apart from having the legal document, the organization needs also some key policies as discussed. And if possible, after designing your website, you as the organization, you can publish all of these key policies on your website. This is crucial at the time when people are in search of necessary information about your organization. They will directly have access to them through your website. This also portrays how serious you are with the legal document. Thirdly, we are emphasizing on the financial management and accountability matter. Are you aware that we haven't talked about the activities? All of these elements are very relevant. You should have a financial system that put to light accountability, transparency, efficiency, and professionalism. you should be strict when it comes to the management of the finances. Firstly, you should open a dedicated non-profit bank account. Secondly, if possible, you can use an accounting software. I understand that this software is sometimes expensive, but if you want your organization to be trusted, you should use an accounting software. Thirdly, you should also develop a clear budget and an annual operational plan. It is necessary to have a clear budget. We will use, for example, 5 million. You also provide more details.
Okay?
You should also have transparent practices. Here we mean having an annual external audit, a quarterly internal financial report, clear record keeping. You should carefully keep the receipt, invoices, payroll, donor report. For instance, you have finalized the project and then say that there are no receipts. This is not something to really encourage. So you should carefully keep all the receipts, the invoices, but also the payroll and the donor report. But also, donor, you should have what we call donor-specific budgeting and tracking. If there is a donor who gave you, for example, some money, you should elaborate what we call donor-specific budgeting and tracking to ensure that the funds are used properly, but also to ensure that there is transparency. Fourthly, you should have program design and impact practices. Now we are going to talk about the activities and program. Firstly, you need to do community needs assessment. You do not need to fabricate facts. You should show that your initiative is grounded in real need through surveys, interviews, community forums, or baseline studies. You should really have proof justifying that you are giving solutions to real needs of the community. What concerns the baseline studies especially?
Baseline studies, très important. Donc ça veut dire
is that you are going to display the initial situation. For instance, in a community X, Goma, Bukavu, you initially display the situation concerning poverty, environmental degradation, and other issues. So you should really have a document that shows in details the initial situation so that you may be able to compare the initial situation and the situation of the state after your intervention. This is very crucial. Secondly, for each program, you should prepare a problem statement, target beneficiaries, the theory of change or logical framework, but also expected outcomes and indicators. You also need to prepare an implementation plan with timelines. For instance, in the YENA Peace Club, they have 5 programs. This means we should have a clear and well-defined document that contains all of these elements. This is what we are talking about. Thirdly, there should be a monitoring and evaluation. It is very important to have a strong monitoring and evaluation system in which you can easily establish data collection tools. This means if you did an intervention, for example, you need to do a monitoring and an evaluation to assess if there was a change while basing on the initial state. This is crucial, and this program is called monitoring and evaluation. You should also show the indicators and success metrics. You should do also periodic evaluation. You should also have an impact reporting template.
Okay? Voilà. Donc, jusque-là,
I have clearly discussed 4 main points. For me, the most important one for the organization to start working strictly and being trusted, there is a need to firstly clarify the governance and leadership structure. Secondly, we talked about the key policies. Thirdly, we talked about the financial management and accountability. Fourthly, we talked about the program design and impact practices. And talking about an organization, we are not only referring to this element, but we should also take into consideration other important capacities. These capacities are the communications, advocacy, and public relations. When your organization starts growing, you should also develop other important capacities. Here are 5 important capacities: the human resources and organizational development, resource mobilization and partnerships department, operations and logistics, especially for larger organizations. We also have IT and data systems. Here, this is optional, but it is very beneficial. This capacity can be adopted by the organization with time, not immediately. Unfortunately, when youth start an organization, we start thinking about designing the website as the first step. I'm not saying that this is not important. I agree that this is relevant. It is very relevant for the organization to be known, your website being known, and having an account. But most of the times, we neglect the relevant element and aspect. And then, as we discussed together, these elements, they are very crucial. And this is the end of my presentation. Thank you so much for your kind attention. And I would like to invite you to do a self-evaluation of your organization. I would like to invite you to share how your organization functions and how things are done in your organization. Thank you so much for your kind attention, and thank you for your active participation.